I now have another conversation for you. So we're going from open APIs in Malaysia, we're moving to a customer journey transformation in the UK. I'm delighted to welcome Dan Healey, Director of IT Transformations Programme from 3UK, and Lee Brady, Transformation Programme Director from Amdocs. Please take a seat. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And we're going to be looking at 3UK's game-changing strategy and the transformation to their unified customer journey. So you're very welcome. So, now let me see, get my thoughts straight here. Yes. I'm switching from one interview to another, so bear with me. Again, we spoke about this about a week ago, and the story we're going through here, it has a lot of resonance for me. I worked in BT and British Telecom before moving to the Forum, and I know the story we're about to go through. I can just have stories like that all the time, so it is very, very similar. But before we begin, if you would like to just tell everybody a little bit about 3UK, some of the audience might not be familiar with them, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, no problem. So just before we get into it, a little bit about 3UK. So 3UK is owned by Heike Hutchinson. From a scale perspective, the 3UK brand operates across 5 European countries. But looking specifically at the UK, we have a customer base of just over 10 million customers, 99% network coverage across the UK. From a size and scale perspective, we carry around about 30% of the mobile data traffic across the UK. We operate out of 300 retail stores, and we have around about 5,000 employees. So they're very much from a UK perspective, we're number 4 from a market share perspective. So very much still a challenging brand. And part of what we're going to talk about now is big ambitions to kind of grow and to compete, certainly with the big 3 from a UK market perspective, and the transformation journey which we've been on over these last couple of years is definitely going to help us to achieve that.
Yeah. So getting on to the transformation journey, what was the problem you were trying to solve? What were the drivers? What were that's absolutely what's fine. The problem statement?
So I guess from a 3 perspective, we as a company, 3 went live in 2003, hence the name, and we got old quite quickly. So for over 20 years, the company started to struggle from a lack of investment in terms of its applications, its legacy systems. So lots of its systems and architecture and infrastructure were moving to outer support. We had a very complex vendor landscape, lots of legacy systems, customers sat on different systems. It was very difficult to get a holistic understanding of what customers wanted from a journey perspective. As I mentioned, the vendor landscape was complicated. So from a cost-based perspective, it was incredibly expensive to operate. Mm-hmm. And from a marketing competitiveness perspective, I mentioned we've got big growth ambitions to move the company forward, but with the legacy stack and the applications which we had, with customers sat on different stacks, it was hard to move the dial forward, and it was certainly difficult to compete with some of the new products and services which the competition could offer, and we couldn't with the old systems which we had. So we knew we needed to do something.
Yeah, and what did you do?
So what we did was we took the bold decision a couple of years ago to partner with Amdocs to embark on a really ambitious 2-year program to really perform, I guess it's been described internally as open heart surgery on our BSS system. So we did a full stack swap out of our BSS, as I said, moving over to a core Amdocs platforms. This is from a billing perspective, customer management systems, stock and logistics, the software and hardware that we operate in the retail stores, a new digital platform from a web shop and an app perspective, and also a new data platform. So end-to-end stack swap out, which we did within 2 years, and also did a full migration of all our customers, both consumer and business, off our legacy stacks over to Amdocs. So we're now operating from a genuinely single stack position, achieving that within the ambitious 2-year time frame.
Wow, remarkable. Thank you. So Lee, you've been sitting patiently.
Yes.
Thank you for waiting. Amdocs were obviously the partner in this transformation.
Yes.
Just how did you approach it, and how did you make sure that it achieved a successful outcome?
So I think excuse me, the key things, the kind of three key things that we managed, we did together as a kind of collaborative effort. So basically, we worked very closely together, and so it wasn't really a vendor and a customer. It was a collaborative effort, working together with IT, but also with the business. Fundamentally, there are three key things: business engagement, executive sponsorship, controlling scope. Yeah. Now, that's not much of a surprise probably to anybody in the room, but I guess to explain how we did that, we worked very closely together with the business. The business seconded people from all of the areas of the business, so not just the channels, not just commercial, but also legal, finance. So we had a business functioning team, basically working as a cross-functional team that worked. We met every day with them, together with IT, together with business change, and we used that engagement to basically build relationships, but also to allow us to surface up issues, help us manage problems that were coming up. And one, I suppose, the third point that I made around controlling scope. So at the outset, we basically said, no CRs. There will not be any CRs. We have to deliver this transformation, and we have to finish it very quickly within the 2 years that we set out, so that we can deliver the value that the business requires. Yeah. Okay? So actually trying to control the scope and saying there will be no CRs was a major part of achieving what we needed to achieve. Yeah. Now, reality, there were probably 200 or so CRs that were raised, but we rejected 3/4 of them. So we pushed them out, we got rid of them. We made sure that we were only focusing on the really critical items to get delivered to be able to enable launch, go live, migration, okay? So the business took steps backwards even. We didn't reach parity with legacy in some areas, but to allow us to then bring in some of these other benefits and get off the legacy stacks.
Yes. I'm wanting, did you have a third point, or can I butt in at this point? I can't remember. I'm curious about what you said about no CRs. I'm going a little bit off script.
Yeah.
No, go for it.
What you're describing there, the executive buy-in, the really good communication, talking every day, that's excellent. I can see how that works. You build a relationship. From the no CRs, how did that feel from your side? Did you not feel, hang on, I need this CR, this is what I want?
I think what really helped was getting that alignment up front with at a board level of what we wanted to achieve. And at the outset, the agreement was, this is the scope and this is the time frame. And those were the two key determining factors. And often, having worked on a couple of these big transformations, you often only get alignment at board level at quite a superficial level. As soon as you start to travel down through the organisation, people interpret scope and timelines in slightly different ways. But this was certainly the first transformation for me where we had that genuine alignment all the way down through the organisation. And as Lee alluded to, having functional leaders from finance, HR, commercial, IT, who were genuinely put onto the programme to achieve those broad programme scopes, rather than almost coming at it from this health-interested perspective of what do HR or what do finance need to get out of it. Having that alignment up front and genuinely sticking to that through the governance and the ways of working which we'd put in place really helped us jointly as a team cope with that pressure. Because, fair play to the kind of executive team, they had to make some pretty tough decisions, and some of the CRs which we rejected did have a short-term commercial negative impact, but they saw that for the greater good, because as I alluded to, moving on to the Amdocs stack, we knew would allow us to move forward with new products and services, which in the long run would be far more beneficial to us as an organisation.
And was there a clear sort of vision, a sort of a pole star that you all knew this was what you had to achieve? Because I can imagine the tension of people wanting things. So did you always have something that you could say, no, we have to keep aiming for this goal?
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. So we had a very clear vision of what the stack needed to look like to allow us to migrate into it. Now, the regulatory side of things, that was that needed to be worked through. Obviously, if there were regulatory issues, then those were one of the key drivers for CRs that we did accept. But I think it was the different functions. So we had business team working together. Like I said, we worked every day together. We met with the exec leadership every week in a steerco. Like every week we met with them, and they were able to provide guidance. They were able to give feedback from a sort of wider business perspective of what they wanted to achieve. But everybody, top to bottom, was focused on completing the transformation. I mean, as an example of a CR that was raised to try to, so the contact center were worried about how some information was appearing on the bill. So we were introducing some new capability, this device finance approach. And the way that appeared on the bill was causing them concern, and they felt that it would drive a lot of call volume into the call center because people would be confused, especially once we started migrating. They would see something that they're not used to, and they were expecting to see a big spike in call volumes. And in this business forum, the legal guys were able to say, we're not worried about it from a legal perspective or regulatory perspective. It's clear enough, but there was a general consensus there was a concern there. And the contact center team were calling this out as a gating problem. Mm-hmm. They weren't going to take the next release into production, or we wouldn't be able to migrate because of this problem. So what we did together with the business team and the business change function within 3 was build up essentially the impact assessment. What does that mean for us 3 as a business? That then went into Steerco with a recommendation from the business transformation team. We should accept this risk. Mm-hmm. We should push that problem to outside of the migration window because it's a complex issue to solve. And DLT agreed. And we were able to push that one out. And they essentially were able to take the commercial risk, or the risk of additional cost basically coming in and having to increase headcount temporarily. Mm-hmm. They accepted it. So they were able to move forward with it.
Yes, it does sound like the real heart of that is like good communication. People talking frequently, people understanding the way they're going forward, which is really good to see. So I believe the transformation is largely complete now.
Yeah.
So just very curious to know, did you achieve the business outcomes you wanted to achieve?
Yeah. So so we went live January 2023. So we've been live 18 months now. And we've completed the migration roughly 6 months ago. So if we look at it first from a customer perspective, I think the main driver really is that consistency and look and feel across all of our channels. So from a retail, from a digital, from a customer service contact center perspective, the look and feel of the way customers can interact with us is much more aligned now. So if a customer does some research online before they come into store, which is often the way in the UK market, now when they do their research, they look at the products and services on the 3 website, they come into the store, they stand next to the, next to the person working in the store. The system which they are interacting with is pretty much exactly the same. So there's that consistent feel, and we've genuinely been able to move towards that omni-channel experience now. From a digital perspective, customers are able to self-serve more, like adding lines, doing things to the account in a much more self-serve manner so that's reduced the load down on the contact center. Also from a digital perspective, we've moved to single sign-on. So before we couldn't do that with having different applications and different legacy systems. So now customers can interact with all their accounts, whether it's business, prepay, postpay. They can all do that with a single sign-on. And because of the way we've deployed the new digital applications, we're able to simultaneously deploy new products and services across retail, digital, and contact center simultaneously at the same time, which we couldn't do previously. So those are some of the big digital changes. What we've also done is, as I mentioned, we've been able to introduce new products and services into the market, which have had a real positive impact, certainly from a commercial perspective. One of those being able to offer incredible flexibility now in terms of what customers want. So in terms of we're able to move to new propositions which allow customers to be flexible in terms of their contract duration, the data they need, the call time that they need, and we're able to offer flexible loans so customers can spread the payments of new handsets and products over a time frame, which is convenient to them. So things like that, which the competition could do, which we couldn't, we've now been able to move in that way. What we've also been able to start leveraging in the last sort of 12 months is the new data platform. So that's much more integrated into the core Amdocs stack. So we can quickly learn customer journeys, where customers have got problems, where the fail-off points are, where the sticking points are, and quickly adapt that, because with the website's low-code enabled, so we can quickly make changes and adapt customer journeys and learn that quickly. Those are certainly some of the big things. From going back to retail, we've genuinely moved retail forward, and that's probably been one of the biggest benefits of the transformation journey. We lagged far behind our competitors in terms of the experience of the retail stores. We had fixed terminals. It was very 1990s, early noughties. Now the guys can operate, they've all got iPads. They can interact customers far more easily. We've moved them from quite simple transactional journeys into a much more care and support centres. And from a bottom line perspective, we've seen big reductions in those core journeys. So we've knocked off 20% in terms of the time it takes to sign up a prepaid customer. From a contact centre, the kind of introductory calls, we've managed to save 30% on those call durations. With the SIM-only journey, we've reduced by 50%. So some big call reductions from contact centre and from the retail stores. From a B2B perspective, we're able to offer very specific B2B products and services. In the UK, there's a market segment that almost 20 to 100 lines. So not kind of one-man band, but certainly not big corporates. It's quite a neglected market segment, and we really targeted that. And through using the Amdocs platform, we're able to really leverage some new propositions, which are, we're aggressively growing that part of the business now. And I think last but not least is, certainly from my perspective, now we've got the Amdocs stack in, we've got a big program of decommissioning all the old legacy applications and systems. So going from a very complicated vendor landscape, for me personally, working in IT change delivery, we've got a much simplified structure now. Amdocs are our main partner. So that allows us as a business to focus on delivering great products and services to customers, because we have less to think about from having multitudes of vendors to kind of worry about. Plus, let's be honest, it makes accountability much clearer.
Yeah.
So keeping Amdocs on the hook, but that there's kind of no ambiguity there, and we've got a really good partnership, which has been, which we've built over the last couple of years.
It's always great on a session like this. You hear the stories about how it used to take this long to launch a product, now it takes this long, it used to take this long. And it's almost, I'm thinking we almost need to play, time to market bingo across all of these rooms and find out, who are the company that made the biggest saving this year, because there's always, it is remarkable, almost everybody's.
We have to fill in the McKinsey.
What kind of chimed with me was the first McKinsey presentation, where there was a slide which was saying a lot of telcos are still operating with 2 to 3 stacks. We've been on that journey now, and we've genuinely moved from operating in a 2 to 3 stack landscape to a single stack.
And as Peter Lucart said, he would love to have 3 stacks. When you're that large, I know exactly where he's coming from my BT experience. Just really a couple of minutes left in closing, sort of what's next, particularly for 3 and for the partnership with Amdocs?
So, I mean, certainly from my perspective, we've obviously come off the back of this transformation journey. And as we were heading to the end of transformation, we started to put a lot of energy and effort into what next. So I guess the proof in the pudding is that we've now partnered longer term with Amdocs moving forward. So we've very much taken the best of the programme, and we've built an operating model, and we've changed how we operate from an IT delivery perspective internally in 3UK, so that moving forward into BAU, we've almost taken how we operated in the programme into business as usual. So we've stood up an operating model which supports that, and some of the best bits of some of the points you were making around having, key ownership in the business still, to work with Amdocs, to work with IT. We've maintained a lot of the ethos and how we've worked from a transformation programme. We've tried to lift and shift that into BAU. And we've been running that now for the last 6 months. There's still work to do, but, so far so good. And as I say, that alongside, you know, the decommissioning program. So we've got Amdocs now as our core partner, you know, looking ahead now really is working with Amdocs to, now that we've simplified the landscape, it's all around how we use that and we leverage that to build a business moving forward.
And Lee, from Amdocs' point of view, anything
Yeah,
to add?
well, just very excited to continue the journey. Obviously, we're working through, as Dan said, a sort of the simplification of the vendor landscape is part of what we're doing together as well, and using that to bring, I guess, more of a managed service kind of approach and feel to the engagement now, and yeah, continuing to deliver value, business value, that the things that we couldn't take during the transformation, we're now prioritizing with the business and starting to bring through into production so that we can launch new, even further sort of improvements to the services.
Well, thank you both very much for your time. As I said at the start, that certainly resonated with experiences that I've been through in the past, and it's really great to hear such a success story. So it's really good. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.